What it do, everybody? Hopefully, I think I checked my levels and stuff before I started. Hard to do this alone, but hey, everybody, it's me, Ed Carbazel, with the Coast to Coast Combat Hour. It is Friday, TGIF, October 22nd. Um, doing the podcast late this week. Scheduling, life issues kind of got in the way, so we couldn't do our regular recording. And Matt had to hit the road because he's out off to another bare knuckle, his favorite sport, bare knuckle fighting championship BKFC fight night with Dave Rickles and Julian Lane. What's his name? You guys remember him, the Wanna Bang Bro, I believe that's who that is. So it's just me on this week's episode, Edward Carbazel, for the Coast to Coast Combat Hour, brought to you by allaccessmma.com. Make sure you follow allaccessmma.com for all your mixed martial arts and punch and kick news around the sport of mixed martial arts and anything else you listen to. So real quick, just some housekeeping. Had some life events happen, and as I said, scheduling got. I think Matt was only free up until midweek before he started making his way to. I forget where this event is at, Wichita or one of these backwater states where bare knuckles cool. But anyway, life goes on, and Matt will be back next week. But I do know, we communicate throughout the week, and he's securing us some interviews and stuff like that. So in the meantime, we have, it sucks that he's not here because we've got Bellator 269, Bellator's first event in Russia. Main event is Fedor Emilianenko. My man has been off for, Jesus. The last time he fought was the end of 2019 when he knocked out Quentin Rampage Jackson at Bellator 237. That's fresh in my mind because I just put it in my newsletter that I always drop in the link at the bottom of these episodes and audio podcasts. The pandemic postponed his retirement tour. So now his retirement tour continues, and he is facing the number 2 ranked Bellator MMA ranked heavyweight in Tim Johnson. Now, I'm going to bring the card up in a minute. Audio listeners, we always pull up from the promotion's website if they have it up. So I pull it up from BellatorMMA.com. Keep in mind that this is an early card, so by the time you hear this, it might even be starting if you're listening to this on the Saturday of, which is the 23rd. It's another Saturday early card. I feel like the timing of MMA lately, we're in a weird spot with the combat sports. There's also the UFC Vegas 41. Listen, I'm not too keen on these cards lately. You guys know, I go crazy when I talk about the ESPN thing. We've talked till we're blue in the face about there's a Ring of Combat in Jersey tonight. I wonder whatever happened to them and their contract with Fight Pass. I liked it when they were there, but it looked like it was only for a few shows, and now they're back on like you have to be there. Ring of Combat is like, the one of the many regional promotions in the Northeast that fighters get into the UFC and MMA and Bellator MMA and places like that. So that's I'm a little surprised to see that as I bring up my Twitter feed here as I'm recording this. But I wanted to get something off of my chest about this about the UFC card. I just want to make sure I'm not wrong because I could be wrong, as I have been out of whack lately in my advanced age. It's been a weird time of booking stuff here. Weird time of UFC Fight Night 196, which is UFC Vegas 41. So I'm just taking a quick look at the card. It's not the worst card. The only thing is that, a lot was made of the main event with Paulo Costa and Marvin Vettori, and they're fighting at 205, even though it was initially, I mean, they're both ranked middleweights, and it was initially supposed to be a middleweight bout. And Paulo Costa made it super clear the Wednesday of this week that that he wasn't going to make weight, that he was hoping that to get a catch weight or something. I think he said that the 195 was the latest he could do, or something ridiculous like that. And then he went off and like switched it up and said something to the effect of it's just a lot of bullshit. Not for nothing. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It's a lot of bullshit going on. I mean, um, the Bellator 267, got Bellator 260. I'm sorry, Bellator 260, UFC 267, 268, and not for nothing. Most people are focused on 268 right now. If you check ESPN MMA's YouTube feed, their interviews with Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler. I mean, they haven't even talked to the other two title fights that are on there, and it just seems to be there's a lot of like craziness going on at the UFC. And I don't know if you saw the news earlier this week about there's vaccination restrictions for folks coming in. Like if they're not going to be able to hold the event, it's a message that the Hunter Campbell, the UFC's like head legal guy, sent off to like a lot of fighters. And MMA Junkie I believe they first reported how this went off and how a lot of it could put a damper on a lot of the fights that folks may have been looking forward to if fighters aren't getting vaccinated. Which, listen, you say what you want about it, but I mean it's one of the things that are I'm trying to see if this is the ESPN card for tomorrow is also ESPN Plus, the Costa Vittori fight. They sent out the poster today with the middleweight bout. It's actually now a light heavyweight bout. So what are you gonna do with that? But UFC on YouTube, they're offering some free fights. I'm just looking at it just looks like a bit of a shit show over there. So I don't know if Dana White's going to be in house, if that's like let me see, because he was there for UFC Vegas 41. He was there for, where the fuck is that? Here we go. I'm just bringing up it's in the Apex, and he was there for Contender Series, and then so this is weird because both Bellator and the UFC. So depending on what you got, you could be watching both if you're a two screener. If you're like me that runs around like a chicken with his head cut off on Saturdays, you'll probably catch these later, which is what I'm going to have to do. Because I got training and then I got to help my folks out. That's what I do every Saturday, which is why when his fights are on Saturday night, it makes my Saturday night. But whatever. At least Bellator has a good excuse because they're in Russia. The good thing is it's going to be live. So if you want to watch Bellator 269, it'll be live. Their main card starts at 3:00. And they just had an announcement the PR put on Twitter earlier today that they're going to start like a half an hour earlier. So I guess that's noon for Bellator. So that's the fights on YouTube and Bellator MMA and Showtime's Sports YouTube channel. The prelims will be there before they switch over to Showtime. So the good thing about it is, listen, for everybody that used to complain about Bellator's tape delay for years, now we get to see all these fights live. The bad thing is, if you're a busy guy like myself on Saturdays, by the time I get home, I'll probably walking into the Fedor Tim Johnson fight. So I haven't had a lot of time to look deeply at either card because of that. I mean, I've looked at them. I had to submit picks for Sherdog, so I've looked at them, and as I'm scrolling through them, so I apologize for the pauses. But I'm looking at the UFC cards. I mean, it should be both cards look like they're going to be a lot of fun. I like that they put the odds on the UFC's website now. so we can see them. I'll read them off because I already have the Bellator one queued up for just to look at the main event. Poor Matt's not here, but we already know he's going to pick Fedor, and he's likely brought his sweater, victory sweater, or whatever the hell it's called, with him over there to BKFC in Wichita, Kansas, or whatever backwoods country that thing is happening in. Country, state. I'm looking really quick. It's not a bad UFC card. Just outside of the main event, which will probably be, I feel like it's just going to be Marvin Vettori wrestling Paulo Costa into exhaustion, or maybe they won't because they didn't cut weight. Who knows? But Jessica Rose Clark, bantamweight fight against Jocelyn Edwards. Alex Caceres is a fan favorite from back. I mean, he's always an underdog, fighting Sungwoo Choi. Francisco Trinaldo versus Dwight Grant, who are kind of dead even on the odds. And that's the main card. And then at the prelims, you got some of the younger, newer blood. Mason Jones facing David Onama. Jun Young Park against Gregory Rodriguez. Jamie Pickett versus Laureano Staropoli. Kama Worthy versus Jai Herbert. Jeffrey Molina versus Daniel Lacerda. Livinza Souza versus Randa Marcos should make for an interesting strawweight fight. So I'm actually impressed with this card. Sucks that it's on early, and it sucks even more that it's on ESPN Plus because I ain't got that, but I got Showtime. So we're going to talk about Bellator 69. But that's just the way it bees that way sometimes. So let's jump into Bellator 269. First I got to say, it seems stupid to me that this is the thing that sucks about the growth of MMA is it, and you can't hate on the UFC when you like the entire sport, because if the UFC didn't get to where it's at, none of these other promotions, wouldn't be also, what's the saying about boats rising with the tide. So it sucks because this is the first fight of Fedor's retirement tour, and it's not really buzzing as it should be. Because the first time Fedor fighting, which could be maybe his last time or the start of his last couple of fights. MMA fighting has been doing some pretty good coverage. I saw somebody wrote about the whole thing with what's his name, the fight against Fabiano Maldonado when Fedor and Maldonado fought, and Maldonado kind of got robbed of that. And apologies for drinking out of my can of buble into my microphone, but anyway, so here's the thing about this fight. If Fedor wins, look at that record. I mean, there's other bigger records out there, but I mean, the dude has been, in my life, and I can speak for Matt on this. In our time of watching this sport, the guys that were as dominant for as long as Fedor Emilianenko was, I don't know if we're gonna see that. Who else was like that for the longest? I mean, maybe. I mean, listen, you can go to the Mighty Mouse had how many title defenses before he lost, the flyweight title. I'm trying to think who else. Jose Aldo. So this is something. This is what I like about Scott Coker. He doesn't get enough. He's like America's Sakakibara when it comes to making these fights, these fun fights that had the energy, or at least he's trying to bring that energy of Pride Fighting Championship back. And I think that's why I like Bellator so much, and I think that's why I follow. I'm always cheering for Scott Coker and trying to poke his brain when I do get the rare chances I get to talk to him about, making more Dynamite hybrid events and all the stuff he does with Showtime, and the opportunities there. You got to remember he's behind the whole thing with Kimbo and some of the most viewed stuff on regular when they're with Strike Force. He's always been kind of right there. So as much as people like to knock a Bellator and Scott Coker, I mean, a lot of history has come from the stuff he's put on, and this is one of those moments that I think fight fans will look back and be like, "Wow, there'll probably be a 30 for 30 on Fedor." one day, maybe, because 30 for 30 is an ESPN product, and the UF whole deal with the UFC. They probably don't want to shine light on somebody that's not a part of their brand or whatever. But anyway, so the whole thing this week, I mean, so many people made us think about the UFC event that this is going under the radar, and it's probably one of the greatest heavyweights in mixed martial arts young history, probably on the last leg of his career. Um, and if he wins and he beats Johnson, who's number two, he could very well likely become another. This could be a chance at him to get a title again. Now, the problem, and I know that people are probably laughing at that or dropping comments, are going to make fun of me for saying that. But the thing about it is, I can play devil's advocate. I'm not as in love with the idea. Like if Matt was on here, I probably wouldn't get a chance to say anything when we're talking about this fight because Matt likes to talk longer than I do. But which I'm pretty much doing because I'm doing alone today. But the thing about this fight is, say he does win and he gets a number two, he's got one more chance to win a title one more time, and I feel like that's what's making him continue to fight. And if he does continue to fight and he gets that close, the thing is, the guys at heavyweight that he has to face are probably not going to make it easy on him, because the thing is that while he still has what's his name tweeted it out. I shared it. I want to see if I can find it. He just got a full-time gig covering MMA for somebody. Here he is. John Hyun Kyo of where does he do it now? All Star Sports. I'm going to read his tweet. Fedor is one of the greatest of all time, a legend, an icon, an absolute killer all around. And he's right about this. 5-tool fighter. Could knock anyone out on the feet, at the same time submit opponents off of his back, which is we've seen him do in Pride. Go check out his highlights from his career. I'm sure they're all over YouTube by now. Go watch his fight against Hongman Choi. Not many fighters can do that, which is, that was a big dude against. He made Fedor, who is a big dude. Hongman Choi made him look like a little dude, and he was still able to submit him. So that's just the thing that Fedor always brings, even now at this stage in his career. There's just that point of, it's like he still can shock the world if he really puts his mind to it. Which I think he puts his mind to it in every fight, but again, he is not the fighter. He's past his prime, and I'm not saying that to be insulting. Oddly enough, that he's a 74% picked. Must have been Matt clicking this 74 times. He's the favorite to win against Tim Johnson, but Tim Johnson's the number 2 ranked heavyweight amongst the heavyweights in Bellator. And just to give you an idea, that's their former champion right there, Vitaly Minakov, in the co-main event. He faces Said Soma. So you're going to see a very heavy Russian feature card for Bellator's 269 because it's there. They're at the VTB arena in Moscow, Russia. So you're going to see, Andrei Koreshkov was supposed to be on this, and they put out a press release that he had to withdraw due to injuries, but it's still a pretty heavy Russian card. So we're going to get to see a lot of their talent. I forgot what event, who did that recently. Well, I think Bellator did that recently when they were in the last event that Matt went to with a heavy Russian presence on the card. So I think that was a lot part of this because they're trying to get boots on the ground there first, so to speak. Usman Nurmagomedov versus Patrick Pitela. He's undefeated, so rightfully so on the main card. It should make for some fun fights. Anatoly Tocov versus Scharf. So this is one of those fights that we're more familiar with one than the other. That's the main card. Geez, I hope I make it home in time to catch. I can always go back and watch, but and then you can see the undercard is filled again with a lot of local talent out there in Moscow. But if you haven't seen Russian MMA, like what is it, the ACA and KSW and stuff like that. It's certainly, if you were a fan of all these well-known Russian fighters here, like Khabib and all that, you're going to see a lot of that style and perseverance and focus for this card coming. And we didn't really get to talk about. We did our picks for, I believe we did our 268 picks, Bellator 268 picks last week, but that card kind of went. I don't know why I thought Ryan Bader was going to be such a problem for Corey Anderson, but I mean he's really come to his own over there in Bellator as somebody. I don't think we saw. I don't think we thought we were going to see what we saw in the in what we saw at their last event. And there's some other news coming out. I don't mean to make such a Bellator card, but I just feel like they haven't been getting any love, so I'm giving it up right now. I just want to see the rankings as we because that fight happened on the weekend, and then light heavyweight. Ryan Bader dropped 2 spots. Corey Anderson bumped up to number 1, and he faces Vadim Nemkov. That's going to be the finals of the World Light Heavyweight Grand Prix. I mean, it's weird because we thought, we thought we were going to get Yoel, Rumble, and all these other names, and now we have Nemkov versus Corey Anderson. So Corey Anderson, who seems to have found a renewed interest in fighting and just feels like he's being treated better at Bellator. And then when we talk about the bantamweights, Sergio Perez, the champion, there's I wrote something in depth on my newsletter about the Bellator's bantamweights. And the news that came out first announced on Morning Combat with Luke Thomas and some Herb that he does that show with. Sergio Perez and Kyoji Horaguchi will be fighting for the bantamweight title on, was it December 3rd? So that's Bellator 271. So that is definitely something that, and it's supposed to be at Mohegan Sun. So if I'm going to get my ass back on the road covering events live, that's one I should try to get to. It's going to be on Mohegan Sun the Friday, December 3rd, Bellator 272. My apologies. This is part of that whole thing where kind of opened the, which I got that scoop first. Nolan King was the only one that recognized it, but Kyoji Horaguchi and Scott Coker doing the cross promotion with Ryzen. This was one the fight, the focus on Horaguchi versus Bellator champs. It started there, and it looks like we're getting back to that. Hopefully, that whole travel thing, the thing that I mentioned with the UFC. I mean, the UFC extended that to their athletes because it's something from the government being mandated. So I'm pretty sure Bellator has the same issue to worry about. Hopefully, we don't lose this fight because Sergio Pettis versus Horaguchi. I mean, in my opinion, that's a rough one to that's a rough title defense for Pettis because Pettis is that guy. You know what I mean? Pettis is somebody that was not really getting love at the UFC. Came to another one just like Anderson. Came to his own in Bellator and seems to be a different fighter. And now, I mean, if you're gonna look at bantamweights and flyweights, Kyoji Horaguchi is definitely the type of fighter that could kind of level him off if he feels like he's better than he actually is. We gotta remember Horaguchi. He remember when he relinquished both the Bellator titles and the Ryzen titles. It was due to not being able to excuse me. It was due to him not being able to compete because of the knee injury he had. He had to get surgery for his knee. So Sorry about that. I don't know why that keeps happening with my connectivity. But anyway, um, so the time off, because I mean, I know he said he felt good with because of the time off and recovery. But we'll see if he's the same Kyoji Horaguchi. I have to check and see his record. With the pandemic, I don't know if he fought anybody of note since Ryzen, because Ryzen couldn't hold events for a while. They canceled events, and they don't hold that many events a year to begin with. So this could be part of him also just trying to be active again. While he is a Ryzen fighter, he does do his training over at Sanford MMA. Um, with Gilbert Burns and all those guys, right? I mean, he trains with Michael Chandler and all those guys, if I'm remembering correctly. Hopefully, I'm not getting that wrong. Or is it ATT? I always confuse these Florida camps, so I'm sorry. Again, in my old age, I'm messing stuff up. But, yeah, so that's December 3rd. And, again, that matchup, to me, it just speaks to the way Scott Coker promotes events, and it gives old guys like myself and old fans of MMA like Matt just something that we cheer for these fights, because sometimes the saturation of a UFC event every week, when it's just anybody versus anybody, can get a little kind of tired and old. um the pay-per-views are always great, and this Saturday's UFC card is not too bad looking, but I just like there's something about what Coker's doing over there that just makes me feel like it's even though I know Ryzen's supposed to be like Pride 2.0, I just feel like Coker keeps trying to make the American version of it, and I don't mind his attempts at it. So that's where I'm at. Listen, again, my apologies for such a late episode coming this week, but it's partly my fault and logistics with Matt on the road. I mean, he offered to try to connect remotely, but I'm not going to try to connect with a drunk Matthew Hawkins on a Friday night when he's at the weigh-ins or whatever for the BKFC. But he is. I mean, he's not just having fun watching fights out there. He's actually working to get some live guests instead of pre-recorded ones like I've gotten on the podcast to join us on when we record back to our regularly scheduled Tuesday evenings. So hopefully the names he dropped, I'm not going to mention because people cancel and stuff like that. So, but if we get some familiar names, some past guests, and some brand new guests, and again, we're trying to step out of our comfort zone and bring in some more than just MMA fighters. We're going to try to get a little more bare knuckle BKFC competitors on here, which we've already done. And just kind of uh, jump around combat sports a little more, and kind of we call it Coast to Coast Combat Hour because we like to cover anything that resembles combat sports or competition of human versus human, if you will. So we're going to try to expand stuff like that and open up our doors to other fighters and stuff. So anybody that listens to this wants to jump on, you can always drop us a voicemail message through Anchor. If you follow the Anchor link on the one of the links on the bottom here, there's a link for you to drop a message. And speaking of which, I didn't even check them. I got to check the messages. I'll do that right now. That way, if there's nothing there. But you can drop messages. The voice message link again is in our Anchor profile. And I don't know all of our links. Matt usually takes us out when we do the closeout of the show. But make sure you give us a follow on allaccessmma.com for the video version of this podcast. Matt is MMA Hawk 21 on his socials. I am Carbazel, which is right here on the bottom. Old Head Carb on Twitch, and I don't remember the Instagram one because it's just a fucking copy of Matt's Instagram one anyway. So if you're following Matt, you're probably following everything we do here outside of his man thirst picks when he's out at fights, watching fights. But I got to break his balls because he's not here. But again, shout out to Matt because he's he's going to get some good guests while he's out there. So I'm just breaking his balls because, again, we did try to get both of us together this week. So my apologies. I'm sorry for the late podcast. I mean, again, shit happens and we are humans and as much as I'd love it for this to be our full-time thing, it's not our full-time thing. So lots of stuff happened the past week that just had to get through the week to get to today, which is why I'm recording this on a Friday night. But enjoy the fights. Have a good weekend. And next week we will be back to our regularly scheduled program. And no question of the week or no Q&A on the Spotify this week because it's just me. So actually, yes, there will. I'll close it out with one. Question will be, do you think Paulo Costa should be reprimanded outside of the fines and stuff? Like, do you think the UFC should do something about Paulo Costa pretty much making the booking light heavyweight bout versus a middleweight bout that was initially announced? Like, should they wash their hands of Paulo Costa? That'll be the question. Do you think the UFC should wash their hands of Paulo Costa? It'll be a poll. So if you listen to this on Spotify, click the poll and we'll read it off on Tuesday. So enjoy the fights. Have a good weekend. And again, my apologies for the late episode, but throw some money. Maybe I'll take it a little more seriously. Or just give us a follow, like, and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Peace.